Welcome. This is the Joyful Belly conference call, and my name is Susan Bass. I'm an instructor at Joyful Belly, an Ayurvedic practitioner, nutritional consultant, and Ayurvedic yoga therapist in Portland, Oregon. And today we're going to talk about the earth element. The earth element is one of the Pancha Mahabhutas, one of the 5 basic elements. And in Ayurveda, the premise is that everything on the earth, including me and you, is comprised of the 5 basic elements. And if we can really understand how they express outside our body as well, and the different foods we eat, the things we take in, we can learn how to create balance and harmony with simple means. So it makes sense to spend an entire class just on the earth element. Without the earth element, we would be just a blob with no form or ability to protect ourselves from the world around us. Our body is filled with channels taking prana, water, nutrients, waste, hormones, enzymes, B and T cells from the immune system to fight off invaders, and much more is going through the channels just to keep our little ecosystem alive and well. The earth element makes that possible by providing the foundation and structure to create the frame and the space for all of these channels to be open and flowing. It's the earth element that gives form to our body as well as to its channels in our cells. All solid forms in the body are an expression of the earth element, even the ego. The ego is the consolidation and crystallization of consciousness, and it is from earth molecules. Life is possible on this planet because the earth holds all living and non-living substances to its solid surface. Earth is represented in the body by proteins, minerals, and hard structures such as the bones and the teeth and the nails and the cartilage and the hair and the skin. The earth element resides in our root chakra, our pelvis, our femurs, the largest bones in the body, our omentum. The omentum is the layer of fat that's right below the belly button. These are all the seat of earth in our body, and they're our base of personal safety. We use the earth element to build houses. Brick and stone help us to protect ourselves from fluctuations of the other elements, ether, air, fire, and water. And this is a really good metaphor for what the earth element does for us in our body. All solid structures, hard, firm, and compact tissues in the body are derived from the earth element. In our body, when the earth element mixes with water, it creates the glue or the cohesion that holds the cells together. And this is one way that the Kapha dosha expresses in the body. The bones, the muscles, the connective tissue, lubrication in the joints, moisture in the skin, and immunity all come from the earth and water elements combining. And this is what Kapha dosha looks like in the body. All the elements are present in each individual, but the proportions and combinations vary from person to person. The person with a Kapha predominant constitution has more earth and water than the other elements. The quintessential earth personality would be Superman, or Oprah, or Barbara Bush, or the Jolly Green Giant. The earth element gunas, or qualities, are heavy, dense, hard, dull, static, and gross. The heavy quality of earth gives our body solidity, structure, and support. The dense, thick, hard, static, gross quality of earth gives our bones the strength and gravity they need to hold us to the earth. The hard quality of earth gives our teeth the ability to break down nuts and seeds and meats and other dense foods so they can be turned into accessible nutrients by our digestive system. So what do these qualities look like in a person with a lot of earth? With somebody that's stout and robust and husky, resilient, solid, hardy, just a boulder, your solid boulder friend, brawny. The energetic action of the earth element is it's gravity. It's a gravitational downward attraction, grounding. And the type of energy is physical mechanical energy. And that's an example of that would be muscle movement. Energetically, someone with a lot of earth in their body is a healthy balance of earth, is dependable and reliable, just this unshakable type person, very sturdy. Of all the tanmatras being the most subtle energy of the 5 elements, the 5 tanmatras are sound, touch, taste, form, and smell. But of all the tanmatras, smell is the one that's most connected to the earth element. It's very difficult for any of the 5 senses to work well if someone is lacking the earth element, and so the earth element is connected to all the tanmatras, but it's very, very connected to the sense of smell. You'll see it in people later in life, in their senior years. It's very common for them to have dulled senses and poor sense of smell and taste and sight. And that's as the earth element is dissipating, as someone's moving more towards spirit. They have much higher vata and much lower earth element. So the earth element is most closely related to the sense of smell. The jandriya, or sensory organ of smell, is the nose. The olfactory nerve in the mucosa of the nasal cavity is the most exposed nerve we have. There's no processing at all. When you breathe something in, there's just an immediate reaction to smell, and it goes straight to the limbic system of the brain. Many people know just by someone's smell if they want to connect with that person or not. Our sense of smell relates to the earth element and to our most primal nature. So Ayurveda believes that the karmendriya, or organ of action for the nose, is the anus. And the action is, of course, of the anus is to eliminate solid waste, which is got a lot of earth in it. And the relationship between the nose and the anus is explained by the fact that a person who has chronic constipation or an unclean colon will experience bad breath and a dull sense of smell. Constipation is an excess of the earth element stagnating in the colon, as fecal matter contains substances so dense that the body cannot break them down. So the earth element and how it relates to the dhatus, or the bodily tissues, are that it's very connected to mamsa. Mamsa is muscle tissue, and 90% of the muscle tissue is derived from earth and water molecules, both of which are very heavy. 10% of the muscles are derived from the fire element. And the fire component is necessary because it transforms the blood nutrients into muscle movement. The earth element in the muscles does the plastering that gives form and shape and support and movement, protection, strength, and stamina to the body. The earth element in muscles provides protection by covering delicate organs and delicate parts of the body. They plaster the bones and joints and protect the nerves and the blood vessels. Without the earth element, we would just be a puddle. Whether you're typing on a computer or climbing a mountain, the earth element in the muscles and bones and joints is required to make this happen. Another dhatu that has a lot of earth element is the meda, which is the fat tissue. And according to Ayurveda, fat is predominantly water and earth. Healthy fat tissue has a tremendous capacity to store and yield energy into the system. And the reason that fat molecules deliver so much more energy into the system than carbohydrate molecules is that fat molecules are made up of the water and earth elements. The fat molecules are made up of the water and earth elements. I heard a blip, and so I was hoping the electronics didn't go off there. So the earth element is dense and therefore has more capacity to store and deliver energy. When you're burning fat as fuel, you feel calm and stable, as fat is a slow-burning fuel. What kind of fire will last longer and burn more consistently? An oil lamp or burning some twigs? What kind of meal gives you more energy and stability? An avocado or some goldfish crackers? You know, maida, this fat tissue, is very dense because it has earth in it, and it yields a lot more fuel. It's a much better fuel. Another dhatu, or bodily tissue, that has a lot of earth is, of course, the asti dhatu, which is bone tissue. And bone tissue is the densest tissue in the body. Asti is predominantly made up of earth, air, and water. Earth is about 80%, bones are made up of about 80% of earth. No, yes, the bones are 80% earth, they're about 15% air, and water is about 5%. The earth element in the bones provides the structure of the bones in the form of calcium, iron, copper, zinc, and other minerals and mineral salts. People with a Kapha constitution will have better bones because the earth and water elements that make up the bones are predominant and readily available in the Kapha body type. In many Ayurvedic schools, the way they teach the students to identify the constitution of a person is by looking at an x-ray of his or her femur, which is the largest bone in the body, and the Kaphas have the largest femur, the Pittas have a medium-sized femur, and the Vatas have the smallest femur. Animals with a lot of earth element have a lot of bones and hard structures, like an ox or a bison or a rhino or a giant tortoise or a gorilla. Bones protect the delicate vital organs, such as the brain, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the heart, the lungs. The pelvic bones protect the ovaries and fallopian tubes, the uterus, the colon, the prostate gland. The earth provides a lot of protective, it does a lot of protecting for us. What's something interesting about the bones is that the unwanted metals and minerals are excreted from the bones by putting them into the hair and the nails, which is why one of the best ways to test heavy metal toxicity is to test the hair. But for our best results, you need to use the hair close to the scalp, down by the occipital ridge. But the bones are always, they're trying to get rid of the things that aren't good for them, because the body's always making these decisions about what should I hold on to and what should I let go of. So the earth element in the bones indirectly maintains water electrolyte balance through the molecules of calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And the colon absorbs minerals and directs them to the outer covering of the bone called the periosteum. So the colon is not just an organ of elimination. It has a lot of responsibility in absorbing nutrients and minerals to help build the bones, asti. So in Ayurveda, we consider constipation a precancerous condition. And our definition of constipation is that you're not having a full evacuation through natural means every morning within an hour of waking. And constipation can even just look like, a stool that's all, little rabbit pellets. You want a stool that looks the size, shape, and consistency of a banana and is not broken in the toilet. And we talk a lot about stools in Ayurveda, which took me a while to get used to, but it's how we can tell what's happening in the digestive system. So understanding what's happening in the colon and with the stools is a critical piece of making sure that you have strong bones and that you're able to take in your minerals. Because a healthy colon absorbs minerals to build bones, muscles, connective tissue, and support electrolyte balance. Asti is nourished by the Vata dosha because the minerals to build bones are absorbed in the colon, and the colon is the seat of Vata dosha. Um, Most of the other dhatus are nourished by Poshaka Kapha, which is really the physical precursor of Kapha dosha that nourishes Kapha throughout the body. The only other dhatu that's not nourished by Poshaka Kapha is the blood, which we call Rakta dhatu, and it's nourished by Pitta. The inferior byproducts of the earth element in the bone tissue are the hair and the nails. So by looking at your hair and your nails, you can understand the condition of your bones. Having thick hair and strong nails is a sign of having strong bones. If you have brittle, weak, thin hair and nails, it's a sign of having weak bones. And so you really want to notice if things change with your hair and your nails. It's saying a lot. The pubic hair and underarm hair and mustache hair, they're not directly functionally connected to the bone tissue. They're more directly connected to the reproductive tissue, but they still contain a large amount of the earth element. So the thyroid gland produces a hormone called calcitonin. And calcitonin is involved in helping to regulate levels of calcium and phosphate in the blood and opposing the action of the parathyroid hormone. And calcium is made up primarily of the earth element. If someone's blood does not clot well, the person is probably lacking in calcium. So proper blood clotting requires healthy earth element in your body. So how do the tastes connect to the earth element? The Ayurvedic nutritional system is based on the 6 tastes of sweet, sour, salty, astringent, bitter, pungent. And 3 of the tastes contain the earth element. So knowing this helps to determine which foods to eat, whether to increase them or to decrease them, depending on what you're trying to do, because they have earth. So like if you have the sweet taste, it's composed of earth and water. The qualities of sweet taste are heavy, cooling, and oily. And the earth element brings the heavy quality to the sweet taste. And we don't consider sugary foods to be sweet taste as much as we do foods that are mainly nourishing and building. The earth element is according to Ayurveda, foods like garbanzo beans and meat and rice and sweet potatoes, ghee, butter, coconut oil, coconut butter. We might use jaggery or sucanat. It's not that a little bit of unrefined sugar is bad, but when we talk about the sweet taste, nourishing and building, we're talking about foods that would taste sweet if we weren't exposed to so much sugar everywhere else. Because when used moderately, sweet is wholesome to the body. It's anabolic, meaning it promotes growth of all 7 bodily tissues. And the sweet taste increases kapha and reduces vata and pitta, and definitely increases the earth element in the body. Another taste that has earth in it is the astringent taste. It's composed of air and earth. And the qualities of the astringent taste are cooling, drying, and heavy. The earth element brings the minerals and heavy qualities to the astringent taste. In small amounts, the astringent taste has the psychological effect of helping someone feel supported and grounded. And that's because of the earth element. It brings things together. You put something astringent in your mouth puckers. It brings things together. It makes the mind collected and organized, putting everything in its right place. But you only need a small amount. But even though the astringent taste has the earth quality and minerals, it's reducing the kapha because it's so incredibly drying. Kapha is water and earth. And there's no water in the astringent taste. There's just air and earth. So the astringent taste is reducing. It's very reducing to pitta, which is why you use astringent toner like witch hazel when you have acne. The astringent has the effect of pulling water out of the tissue and reducing inflammation. So a little bit goes a long way when it comes to astringents. The astringent taste increases vata as the cooling and drying qualities of astringent make the earth element rough. And the rough quality is vata. But if someone needs to bind their stools, astringency is great, and we'll use herbs like kutaja or arrowroot, foods like cooked apple pulp or cooked unripe banana. Foods with astringent taste are foods that pucker the mouth as they pull the water out of the tissues, and they tonify the tissues. So things like pomegranates, lentils. Put one of the brown lentils in your mouth, and the tannins on there will be so astringent. You'll feel this astringent taste very intensely. Chickpeas, green beans, yellow split peas, golden seal, turmeric, alfalfa sprouts, and most raw vegetables are very astringent, which is why raw green smoothies are so disruptive for most vatas. As you know, it can be very, very rough and cooling and astringent for somebody that has a lot of vata to eat these raw green smoothies all the time. But for someone with an excess earth, it would be a great idea. It's all about the person and the season. So the sour taste also has the earth element. It's comprised of earth and fire. And although the sour taste initially burns kapha, when used over a long period of time, it will increase kapha, especially in a person with a kapha body type. The sour taste in excess can create pulmonary congestion, especially the fermented sours like vinegar and sauerkraut, as they spoil the blood. Fermented foods are pre-digested by bacteria, which is why they're easier to digest, and because the bacteria are eating the food. But they also create metabolic waste, meaning bacteria pee and poop, and that pollutes the blood. So a little tiny bit of these things go a long way when it comes to sour and kapha and earth element. So what does deficient earth element look like in the body and the mind? Osteoporosis. Their bones are thinning. They're losing their minerals. Tooth decay. Tooth decay can come from deficient or excess earth. You see it in someone with deficient earth because they don't have enough minerals to hold an alkaline pH in their body, and they don't have enough minerals to hold onto water, and so they have a really dry mouth. And so they have this acidic saliva, if they have much saliva at all, and it's dry, and it promotes the growth of bacteria. Someone with deficient earth would be someone that has a lot of anxiety and fear. They're ungrounded, ADHD. You see it in their nails that are cracking and chipping and weak. Flyaway hair with split ends. Weak enamel on the teeth. The stains won't come off. They're needing to get hip replacements and knee replacements. They have cracking, popping joints, dislocation of joints, lack of muscle tone. Just an inability to build or hold muscle. So what causes deficient earth element in the body and mind? Well, poor routine, staying up late, skipping meals, excess time in electronics, video games, cell phones, computers, television, excess exposure to synthetic chemicals, prescription drugs, solvents, pesticides. Just having a lack of community or structure in your life is very ungrounding. It's really important, if you want to be grounded and have an earth element, to have a structure and participate in civilization. You have a diet of processed foods, fake foods, and all these like dry chips and crackers and cookies. If you want more earth element, you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of minerals and a lot of water-rich foods. Some of the highest quality water in the world is inside the lettuce. It's this vegetable matrix holding this prana-rich water inside the blueberry. It's really easy to digest water. Water is actually quite difficult to digest if it's just straight out of the public water supply. But once it's been filtered through the roots of a plant and warmed in the sun, this is some of the best water around. And so it's important not to just have a diet of fake foods, dry foods, processed foods. If someone's body is constantly in a state of emergency, they're going to be ungrounded, and it's going to end up burning a lot of they're going to burn a lot of their own minerals and depleting their earth element. Another thing that causes a deficiency in earth element is just not respecting your boundaries, just pushing the body too hard, a lack of self-love, a lack of self-respect. You start losing your grounding, over-exercising. I find that many people really deplete themselves running marathons. I'm sure there are a few people that could do this without really depleting and hurting themselves and damaging their bones, but over-exercising can be really, really hard on the body and can really deplete the earth element in your body. Okay, so what practices can we employ to help balance out the fact that the earth element is deficient, to bring it more into balance? Well, deficient earth is, equal to vata, a vata imbalance. And earth is about boundaries and nurturance and stability. Earth is about wealth and community and the care of one's body and one's home. To increase the earth element, we focus on grounding upon a value, and that's, bringing your energy down to the seat of earth in the pelvic region. And we do that with restorative yoga and deep breathing and meditation. You want to really focus on routine. Routine is really important. It's a really critical way to ground vata in your body and start increasing the earth element. Being in bed by 10 p.m., having meals at the same time every day, having a real structure to your life. If you want to increase the earth element, you really need to have a community, some sort of family group or group of friends family. You need to be participating in civilization. And having an authority that you refer to make decisions and for guidance is a part of accepting the earth element into your life. In Ayurveda, our authority is nature. We take our direction from nature. Because if you're not moving with the rhythms and cycles of nature, then you're just not practicing Ayurveda. To me, Ayurveda is the ancient art of nourishing your body, mind, and spirit through connection to nature. And so whatever your version of authority is, making some sort of decision to allow there to be an authority figure that helps you decide, how you're going to live your life, is part of accepting the earth element into your body. Some other ways to accept the earth element into your body is to just cradle the momentum, which is the apron of fat below the belly button. Put your hands below your belly and just cradle it. It helps to ground and pacify the earth element in your body. It's soothing somehow. You want foods that contain a lot of earth element, like beef stew or marrow soup. The Vedic texts talk about marrow soup as being one of the first things you would give somebody that's really got true wasting disease. They are just disappearing. And that's basically bone broth, which we've seen a big comeback of bone broth now. But they talked about it thousands of years ago in the Vedic text as a way to rebuild earth in the body. Soaked almonds, chicken soup, ghee, organ meats like liver, cooking up a liver and some ghee and then pounding it into kind of like a sauce or a roux, making it the base of a soup, is very, very nourishing for someone that's got deficient earth and they're wanting to build it up. Essential oils like jadamamsi and frankincense and lavender are all very helpful for balancing and helping someone with deficient earth, helping to increase earth. Herbs like ashwagandha, this is hardy root, very powerful. Ashwagandha and bala help you rebuild your nervous system so that you're not burning up so many of your minerals and losing all your earth element. Gardening, just put your hands in the dirt. If you want to connect to the earth, it's pretty simple. Touch your feet to the earth. Touch your hands to the earth. Sit on the earth. Spend time in nature. And also a daily oil massage with sesame oil is very helpful for getting this the earth element back into the body. sesame seeds are rich in calcium. It's this warming oil. It's very good for someone with deficient earth. So what does excess earth look like in the body and the mind? It looks like obesity, depression, attachment, lethargy, greed, maybe just dullness and slowness. Might show up as a calcified cyst or a lipoma, which is a fatty tumor. Earwax. If someone eats too much meat, it can often lead to an excess of earwax. And what that really means is that the Mamsa Agni, the muscle tissue is imbalanced. So you might excess earth also shows up as someone that's unmotivated. I mean, the positive side to the earth element in the body is that someone's sort of patient with life and society. But when out of balance, it maybe moves more towards unmotivated and complacent. Some other signs of excess earth element is an inability to wake up in the morning. Tooth decay can come also from excess earth element because the saliva is really thick and sweet. Saliva is a mirror of your blood. And so if your blood is thick and sweet because someone's been eating too many rich, thick foods like meat, wheat, sugar, dairy, then the blood is thick and sweet, and then the saliva will be thick and sweet. It's a very easy medium for bacteria to grow in, and so that can also lead to soft teeth and tooth decay. Some other signs of excess earth might look like gout. Gout is a combination of kapha and pitta, but it's got a lot of minerals like uric acids and oxalates in it, hard structures, earth-type elements in it. Kidney stones, that's obviously the earth element. Bone spurs, tumors, growth, huge bound muscles, somebody that's just muscle bound. This is an excess of earth element. So what causes excess earth element in the body? It could be trauma, creating depression or excess grief. If trauma creates complete ungrounding and anxiety, that might create a depletion of the earth element. Or it could go the other way, that trauma has created just depression and stagnation and excess grief, which would be more of an excess. So what else could cause excess earth in the body? Sleeping during the day. So much stress that someone just becomes overwhelmed and immobilized. They might have a sluggish, sedentary couch potato lifestyle, desk jobs, just an inability to move on, or just an unwillingness to let go. That creates an excess of earth. Someone's just not knowing when to let go of things. Overeating. Eating too much sugar, too many heavy foods, oily foods, sticky foods like wheat, dairy, meat, and of course sugar. Poor digestion. Why would poor digestion create excess earth element in the body? So someone ate some food, it turned into an undigested food mass that's just sticky and putrid. We call it ama. It just roams around the body, clogging channels. And it creates a lot of stagnation in all sorts of channels, whether you're talking about pranic channels for energetic clarity or physical channels for just moving nutrients in and waste out. It can create a lot of stagnation and excess earth element in the body. Someone has a diet of just mind-numbing processed foods filled with chemicals and empty carbs. Their body's going to keep telling them they're hungry, because it's not getting any actual nutrition. And that's why you see people that eat all those fake foods and processed foods are overweight, because the body keeps sending the message, I'm starving, please send food. And then they put processed food in, but it can't be absorbed. There's no nutrition because there's no nutrition in there. And then over time, all sorts of ama is created that's blocking the cells, so they wouldn't be able to absorb any nutrition if it came in anyway. And so it starts compounding the problem. So in that case, we move somebody onto a cleanse. Steroidal drugs. I've seen people that took steroid drugs for, all sorts of different conditions and ended up with a problem with excess earth element in the body. They have a real struggle with weight gain and other things, excess earth, after steroid drugs have been used for too long. Or just eating too much red meat, too much liver pate, foie gras, eating too many tamasic foods, the mushrooms and the root veggies. All of these things can be used in a way that are really good for you. All food can be a medicine or a poison. It depends on how you use them. There's no good or bad food. It's just when and where and how and why. So an excess of sedative type foods. We all have our comfort foods. Before Ayurveda, my comfort foods were baked goods. Baked goods made me happy and comforted me, but they weren't healthy for me. But that was a true sedative food. Some people, I'll see people using things like mashed potatoes, wheat. Nutmeg is a good sedative food in that it's a warming, calming, astringent spice that is very good for someone with excess earth. So what practices can we employ to balance out the excess earth, to bring it into balance? Well, we can use foods and oils that have heat and fire and pungency in them. So things like basil and ginger, kapur kachari, grapefruit, tulsi, a warming blood invigorator. Rosemary. Rosemary will bring energy up towards the eyes, which is someone with excess earth has probably got a sunken chest. They're probably slumped over, sitting in a lazy boy. But rosemary will bring your energy back up. Nasya is great for the earth element in the brain, and we call the earth element in the brain Tarpaka Kapha. And Nasya is one of my favorite Ayurvedic treatments. I do it every single day. And I would say I tend more towards deficient earth, and it still helps me. It's just nourishing for the earth element in the brain called Tarpaka Kapha. So too much earth can be stagnant and sluggish, of course, and so then you go for the bitter, astringent, and pungent taste, which is exactly what we're doing right now in spring. We're trying to counteract the slowness and dullness and heaviness that comes at the end of winter. And so we go for foods like bitter greens, leafy, especially the bitter and pungent greens like the mustard greens, arugula, watercress, radicchio, frisee, endive. Beans and lentils and sprouts, bitter roots like burdock and rhubarb and dandelion root and chicory, and sprouts. And so these will bring the bitter, astringent, and pungent taste into our body. And ginger is, of course, obviously very pungent too. So a good metaphor for what the pungent taste would do for someone with excess earth is that, like lava. Lava is this molten earth, and what melts it, the earth, is heat. And if you add in the pungent taste to your diet, you're heating the earth element in your body, and it's helpful to start liquefying it and melting it. And so we'll use things like ginger. You cut up some ginger slices by peeling ginger and then cutting it up into little dime-sized slices, and chew it up. Sprinkle it with maybe a little lime juice, maybe a little sprinkle of salt, and it's extremely helpful at liquefying mucus. If it makes you cough when you chew it, you know it's breaking up mucus in your throat. Tulsi, a warming blood invigorator, heart opener. Basil is very pungent. Cayenne, you start sweating. Your eyes and nose start watering. Black pepper, very stimulating and pungent. Jalapeno. So they start things flowing in the body. They turn this solid or excess earth into molten lava, which is what we want if you have excess earth. We might use cholagogues. Cholagogues are foods and herbs that help pull fat out of the body, and they reduce the density of earth element in the body. And we use sours and bitters because they encourage the bile out of the liver and the gallbladder, and they get things moving. And when the bile is, pulled out of encouraged out of the liver and gallbladder, it starts absorbing the fat in the blood, and that helps us purify the blood so that the blood is not thick and gucky. And so the cholagogues are very helpful to reduce the density of the earth element in the body. We might use some diuretics to purge excess electrolytes in water. But you want to favor a potassium-sparing diuretic like a dandelion or a parsley. Did you know that dandelions are a medicinal plant that was brought over by the American settlers? Yeah, we brought it over here because it's so powerful. It's this hardy plant that just packs a powerhouse of nutrition and medicinal benefits. And it's a wonderful electrolyte, but it doesn't remove the potassium. And the potassium keeps things flowing. And so that's important when you're looking at a diuretic for excess earth. So dandelion and parsley being my favorite potassium-sparing diuretics. So doing some fasting or some cleanses. Someone with excess earth, doing a spring cleanse is critical. It is so important. It's the best time of year to cleanse, and it's critical for someone with excess earth. And it doesn't need to be a sledgehammer-style cleanse. In Ayurveda, we do just food cleanses. It might just be 12 days of healthy eating in a particular way that really helps the body reset and rebalance. Reducing therapies, and like Langana and Lekana, we might do different types of bastis, or making sure that different types of foods that are reducing. Maybe a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet. We might use the bitter and pungent taste for thinning and reducing, something like taking a bitter orange peel as an herb, using the aromatic taste. The aromatic tastes are very helpful in that they start breaking down the excess mucus in the stomach, Cletica kapha. We talked a lot about that. And so since the root of all the mucus in the body comes from the stomach, from Cletica kapha, a way to just gently start breaking down excess kapha in the stomach and this excess earth in the stomach is with the aromatic taste. Just drinking some peppermint tea, chewing up some cardamom, Ayurveda's #1 anti-mucus spice. Someone with a lot of kapha, coffee is a medicine for them. Someone with a lot of vata, that's a poison. But for someone with a lot of kapha, it makes a lot of sense. I like the way the Europeans do it, where just after dinner they'll have a little cup of espresso, and it gets things moving. Or even just green tea. Turmeric, very invigorating, invigorating and warming for the blood. Tricketu, which is a digestive spice mix that has black pepper, long pepper, and dried ginger, and it burns the mucus off in the stomach and heats up digestion. And so for excess earth, it's a really good answer. In the form of yoga, we'll do things like back bends and birded poses, twists, maybe some difficult balancing poses like half moon or warrior 3. For someone with a lot of excess earth, they might be doing some, trampolining. Yeah, the mini tramps, those are great. You could jump on one of those for 2 minutes, on an empty stomach and really get the lymph moving, and it can be very helpful for someone that feels very stagnated. When it comes to pranayama, Bhastrika is one of the best pranayama bellows breaths to do because it has the effects of its drying and heating to the body and burns up ama, this thick undigested food mass, and that will really help in our quest to reduce the excess earth. Kapalabhati, it's cleansing and purifying and healing for all 7 bodily tissues. And then Agnisara, which really get things moving. You want to be working with somebody if you're doing these different pranayamas. Some other practices we'll use to remove excess earth would be Garshana, which is dry skin brushing. And before the shower, you just spend 5 minutes brushing towards your heart, circular movement around the joints, and long strokes on the bones. And it really gets the lymph moving and is very helpful in helping getting the stagnation of excess earth moving. Twisting poses are very good. The beginning of the lymphatic system and the most concentrated part of the lymphatic system is the gut-associated lymphatic system, and it's right around the small intestines. And when you're doing twisting poses, you really get that stretching and moving, because so often what you find is when people have a belly that's disproportionately big compared to the rest of their body, it's just stagnated lymph. It's just swelling. And one really good way to get that moving is to do some twisting poses, some gentle twists. Even just rock and roll music, something that's going to get your blood moving, dancing. Green drinks. Green drinks are very good for excess earth. They can be quite depleting for someone with a lot of vata, but they could still have them in small amounts, but someone with a lot of excess earth, they do well with the green drinks. Aromatherapy, to bring their energy up into their eyes and their brain. In Panchakarma, we use bastis, which is different types of enemas, as well as vamana, which is basically vomit therapy, which you, of course, want to be working with a healthcare professional to make that happen. Another thing we would do is stimulate the crown chakra with acupressure points. We could do the Brahmari, the humming bee, pranayama. Really get into the throat chakra. Maybe some singing, chanting. Pranarnava is a classic herb for dealing with excess kapha. Laxatives can be very helpful in the situations for excess kapha. Neem is bitter and sort of piercing. It can be very helpful for kapha. Guggulu is very heating and scraping, especially a triple of guggulu is something that I would recommend for different people with excess earth. Cedar, sage. So these are some different examples of things we can do to get the excess earth element into balance. And there's so much earth in our bones and teeth that I wanted to spend at least a little time talking about how we can support the bones. And just weight-bearing exercise, yoga. When you do yoga, do the weight-bearing poses. Include calcium-rich foods in your diet. You don't want to get your calcium from a big hunk of ground-up rocks that will possibly lay down gravel in your heart. Just taking those big hunks of calcium carbonate, that is so dangerous. And if someone doesn't have enough vitamin K, it lays down the gravel of this calcium in the heart. So it's really important to get your calcium the way that our ancestors did, and that's getting different, a little bit here and there from food, all during your day, not just in one big hunk. And also, you could eat foods like kale and sesame seeds. The sesame seeds would need to be raw, and they still need to have the hull on them. And something we'll do in Ayurveda is just slowly chew up a big mouthful of sesame seeds in the morning, and then we just make this paste with chewing and chewing and chewing, and it really sends a lot of calcium and earth element into this delicate tissue membranes in the mouth. Almonds, if they're soaked and peeled, have a lot of the earth element and support the bones. They need to be peeled because the skins irritate the walls of the small intestines. And then it's very difficult to absorb nutrients if your small intestines are all irritated. Bone broth, of course, because you've just cooked down bones. And get out in the sun. Take in some vitamin D. And moderation, of course, in everything, but I'm not scared of the sun the way some people are. I really like going out and getting 20-30 minutes of sun a day. And taking vitamin K is something to think about. It acts to direct calcium to the right place in the body. Without it, the body doesn't know where to put it. So it's something that is really important when you're talking about building up your bones and increasing your calcium intake. So what can we do to support our teeth? Well, we should have a toothpaste that's bitter and astringent, because that cleans the pockets of the gums between the teeth and it makes the saliva thinner. One thing you could do is put 10 drops of tea tree oil in water and then swish it. It's astringent and bitter, and it kills bacteria. It's a good antiseptic, and it also strengthens the gums. If somebody has really thick saliva, we might make a triphala mouthwash, where you take a half teaspoon of triphala and pour about 6 ounces of almost boiling water over the triphala, and just let it get to the point where it's warm, and then rinse it in your mouth, and it will really tighten and astringe the gums, and thin the saliva. So neem toothpaste is a great way because it's bitter. Neem is the queen of the skin, and the oral cavity is just skin on the inside of the mouth. And it's really important not to grind your teeth, as it will break down and dissolve the earth element in your teeth. So this has been a quick overview of how to recognize the earth element in your body and in all its forms, and how to use simple means to bring it into balance. Because that's the beauty of Ayurveda, is of what you have within your reach. What can you use to bring your body into balance? And it's just recognizing the elements and the qualities that are out of balance that allow someone to early on create harmony and balance so they don't move into an acute condition. So now I'm going to unmute the call, and we can open up for questions. Okay. So please ask some questions.
Hi, this is Pat, and I have a couple of questions. What if you have deficient earth in one part of your body and excessive earth in another? For example, what if you had osteoporosis or osteopenia, bones, and then you had a tumor somewhere? How would you go about balancing that?
Okay. So where's the tumor?
Breast.
Okay. So to balance the earth element, because basically, just to say up front, I'm not diagnosing or treating anything on this call or in these lectures. I'm just sort of bringing in ideas. So just to make sure that I've made that clear. To balance the earth elements in your bones, that very often comes from the pH balance being off. And so we want to make sure, like when I was talking about taking that big hunk of out calcium people do, they take like that big hunk of ground up rocks. And you also see calcium carbonate in things like store-bought almond milk and hemp milk and all these different milks. And they're just ground up rocks. And they end up making the body crazy alkaline, so much so that it's dangerous. And so the body produces more acidity to try to balance it out, and then the body's too acidic, and then it pulls calcium out of the bones to try to balance out this pendulum that's going back and forth between too alkaline, too acidic. And you see that often being the result of people taking the big hunk of rocks as a supplement. And it's been a sad result that you see people with osteopenia. And so one thing we learned about watching people go through that is that we don't want big swings in your pH balance. And so anything you can do to balance your pH and keep your colon moving and healthy so it can absorb minerals, it doesn't get stagnated or dry, it is really going to help. And so that's balancing the pH is where I would start with either breast or bones, just their overall health. Because I find very often issues with the breast are connected to the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is because there's so many lymph nodes surrounding the breast. And if the lymphatic system doesn't drain, if someone doesn't have an alkaline pH of just slightly alkaline, 7.3, we don't want an extreme in either direction. And so either way, we're pretty much back to the lymph. And the lymph is rasa, which we equal to kapha. And so it is very connected to earth. And so the first place I would start is getting your lymph moving and draining and holding an alkaline pH. And just start there. Because I wouldn't say that I'm really in a position to give any sort of exact what you should do about a tumor in your breast or osteopenia. You'd probably want to talk to your doctor about that. But I would say just to create a friendlier environment for your bones in your breast, I would start with creating a slightly alkaline pH that's a priority in your life of 7.3 that keeps your lymph moving, and that will protect, support your breast tissue. And then the alkaline pH also will support your bones. And there are a lot of ways to focus on getting your lymph moving. One of the all-time best things someone can do is make sure that they avoid chlorine. And so getting a shower filter, you can buy one for less than $20 at Home Depot, because if your water has chlorine in it, then chlorine is going to block the absorption of iodine. And if you don't have enough iodine, your lymph won't drain. And so it's these little important tips about how to get your lymph draining or make or break, because in Ayurveda, we can't fix anything on anybody. We can't bring them into balance in any way unless their lymph is draining. And so if I were you, I would say take a sip of hot water every 15 minutes for the next few days, get a shower filter, make sure you move, because your lymph doesn't have the luxury that your blood supply does of being pumped around by the heart. The lymph moves when you move. The lymph moves muscle contractions. Get a mini trampoline, jump on it 3 times a day for 2 minutes. But that would be where I would start with those issues, and would probably have the most far-reaching effects as far as how we're going to affect Earth.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The other question I have is about the herbs we've been trying, and I tried. I didn't do the Triphala because I know that one very well. I was on that for many, many years. But I tried the diet food craving one, and I took it a half an hour before lunch and dinner. But it really it gave me very loose stools. I mean, almost liquid stools the first day, and then they were very loose. And so is that something that you need to build up to? So the next day I only did it once a day, and it was a little better, but the loose stools came back later in the evening. So, or is that supposed to be the effect?
Can you tell me the name of the herb?
It's the package that they sent us, and it's the food craving one. There's a bunch of herbs in it.
Cassidy, do you know the name of the herb?
Yeah, there's a bunch. I think it's like, oh my gosh, I want to say there's turmeric, gymnemas in there. Hang on, I can actually look up the formula.
Yeah, I was looking. I have mine now. I'm just looking for it. Oh, it's hard to read, though, because it's light writing. Let's see. Get a better light up here and see if it has, oh my God, I can hardly read it.
Okay.
It has neem, which I'm very familiar with neem. It has turmeric. It has trickatu, googaloo, cardamom, and there's, is it Punavera or something? I can't read that one.
Yeah, Purnarnava. Well, that's a big combination, a big formula. And so if you gave you loose stools, you did the exact right thing. And and the next day when you took less, did you have loose stools again? I
didn't right away, but then I took, because I skipped the lunch one and I just took it right before dinner, but then they came back. The loose stools came back once I took it again.
Okay,
so
so
today
don't
I
take
didn't
it
take it
anymore.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't really take it when I got to be out and about because
No, that's not the result we were looking for.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably just too much information for your body at once, and just do one at a time. Either do turmeric or gymnema, but I would not do add anything else in there because it's just too much information that's upsetting the body, and we don't want to pull it out of homeostasis and dehydrate you that way. So
okay.
Maybe if you do you crave sugar?
Sometimes not really, but I don't eat a lot of sugar. I mean, I'll go through spurts where I might, but I can go long periods where I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, gymnema is very good for balancing the blood sugar. It helps with sugar cravings, and so it sounds like that's not really what you're looking for. Pranarnava is good for getting rid of excess water, balancing kapha. Turmeric's a warming blood invigorator, and so I would say none of those seem like they make very much sense for you while you're having loose stools.
Mhm.
So
okay.
I would not do any herbs right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sorry that happened.
Well, I was experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I took them. I just, I thought I would try them, but.
Yeah. Well, it's that's what it's like with herbs. It's like you try things and then you never forget it. You're after, but it's really hard when it's such a big formula. So, do you have any other questions?
No, not right now.
Okay.
It's a lot of information to digest, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad that it's helpful. Thank you. It is a lot of information. It really is. So it takes time to integrate. Go ahead.
I've got a quick question. You talk about constipation being an issue with like stagnation of the earth element. But my understanding is there's different types of constipation. There's like, I think of like, the vata dry constipation as well as like maybe a more kaphic thing. Is it related? Is it different? I don't know. Am I wrong that there's different? Yeah, are there different
types? Yeah, the vata type is more. It's dry in the colon, and so some will have rabbit pellet stools. Kapha constitution is maybe someone's thyroid is slowed down, their metabolism is slowed down. It's just things just aren't moving well anymore, or they've eaten so many thick, gucky foods. It's just sort of sludgy, and so it can absolutely come from different areas. Yes, and so for the kapha style, using a bitter, astringent, and pungent would be better. For the vata style of constipation, using a sour would be good. And I would say a little sweet, sour, salty would be the way you would go. Yeah. Okay.
And also you talk about, spring being a good time to cleanse for excess kapha. For people who want to do, like a seasonal cleanse in the spring, what does that look like? Is that like early spring or middle spring, or just does it not really matter? I know people used to come I used to work in an herb store, and people would come in and ask me that, and I was just always, I don't know. I don't know.
It's usually that about 4 days before the equinox we'll start moving, getting things moving, opening the channels, and then the ghee portion of the cleanse starts on the equinox and as we're on the waning moon.
Okay.
So I would say if you're going to time it perfectly, if I'm going to go exactly as I should, it would be 4 days before the equinox I start opening the channels and moving to the big detox, when the waning moon starts. But the truth is, if you're in trouble, if you have got hay fever and lung congestion and all these things, then you do the cleanse, whether it's February 15th or May 15th. But you would, February 15th to May 31st is the furthest out I would go for spring cleansing. And I'm not a big fan of cleansing in the wintertime. It's just not, it's not the season of cleansing. But spring is fantastic. And whenever you start seeing there's just mud outside and there's daffodils, it's the sign that wherever you are, it's probably the perfect timing, because it may be that it gets warmer, a lot warmer where you are earlier, and so you could have started your cleanse much earlier than, you know, me who lives in Oregon, since you're in South Carolina. So follow your seasons, your cues from nature. When you see mud and daffodils, you know spring is sprung.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, okay. Well, thank you all for all your questions and your time and attention. And I'll be on the Facebook page if you have any questions about tonight's lecture. And we'll be posting the slides and the recording as hopefully tonight, if not, then tomorrow morning. So have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.